on the Facebook comments and whatnot, or should I? Or both of us? Or are we not going to do that?
I'm gonna.
Okay, it's live.
Okay. I'm gonna do that. First, I'm going to remember which window I'm in when I'm trying to reshare it. Entertain yourselves. Entertain yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves.
I have buttons to click. Hey,
everyone.
You here?
This is something you should probably say. We usually remember to say this. For those of you who are here and logging in, if you haven't been here before, when you are looking at the Zoom chat window and you chat something, it's delayed.
Sorry, holding.
This is all right. I don't think I can do that while I'm listening to myself coming through the speakers. By default, all your chats are set to go out to all panelists, and that means me and Adrianne. If you'd like your chats to be visible to everyone, you have to switch it over to say everyone. And it does look like some of you have already taken care of that, but for those of you who are just joining us now. And for anyone who might be seeing this on Facebook Live, hello, welcome to our pseudo webinar, How to NLP Standing Up. We're going to be getting started here in just a few minutes.
It'd be cool.
I don't know if anybody can see us. We're kind of getting all set up here, but this is going to go on for, I'd say, around an hour, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. We're going to be having a guest come in. We're going to address some questions there. Oh, hold on. I'm going to switch this to gallery view.
Thank you. I was about to say that.
Yeah, okay. So there's two of us here. We're going to be having a conversation with as I understand it, a brand new or freshly minted NLP convert. That makes it sound like a cult. And we're going to address some of her questions and comments and concerns. And then we're also going to talk about, what were the other things? Manipulation. We were going to talk about the M word.
Ooh.
And talk about a few other things related to NLP and hypnosis and this whole crazy world of language and influence. And the most important thing that I can say is, if you're watching this right now, please, please, please give us some questions, because that is what we want to do with this. We've got a big announcement tonight about what How to NLP Standing Up is becoming and what this is evolving into. I've been having so much fun doing this with Adrianne that we've got a big announcement coming. And the most important thing to keep this moving forward and keep this awesome is questions from you. I don't want this to be just us sitting here talking to each other or me sitting here talking at you. I want it to be something we're doing together.
I'd like to do it together.
It's better that way.
I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm confused. It's a little confusing to watch our Facebook Live pages, because I can see myself do something and then I can see myself do it later.
There is a delay. Oh yeah, for those of you who are on Facebook Live, if you're watching, there is a delay. So if you chat in the window there, do you want to drop in the invitation for the group or for the Zoom? So if they want to show up in here, they can? Or do you want to not bother with that right now?
That's brilliant, say.
We could.
Yep. That's in a window. And
Carly, I see you commented questions. Yes, think of questions. Last time you asked me about the shadow. It was a great question. Anything else you can come up with, that's what's going to keep this on fire and interesting tonight.
I remembered where the link was.
Hey, Krina, welcome. Good to see you. How you doing? Glad you made it. Same goes for you. You got any questions? Throw them out there. Write them in the chat. I wish I could see who is on Facebook Live. Like, I can't tell because I'm the one broadcasting it. Like, it just shows like a spinny circle thing. So I can't even see who is there.
I shared it to 4 different pages, so I don't know how to see who's there either. There are 3 live watchers, and
Okay.
I might be one of them.
Yeah, all right. Well, hello and welcome to the rest of you who are on Facebook Live seeing us here for the first time. We are experimenting with taking this webinar, pseudo webinar, and posting it on Facebook Live so that we can get even more people interacting with this. So we're going to be kind of jumping around a little bit, winging this a little bit tonight, but if you'd like to hang out with us for the next hour, have an awesome conversation about NLP, hypnosis, feel free. As a matter of fact, I'm begging you, please, ask us some questions. That's what we most need here to make this interesting. Like, this is going to be so much more fun, so much more valuable if you ask real questions. What is on your mind? What are your burning NLP and hypnosis questions? How can we help? How do you want to learn how to NLP standing up, as it were?
Yeah. So we've got joiners. You've seen them.
I do. I see.
Groovy. I heard a rumor that I'm in charge of how this goes.
Oh, well,
I think I've been doing great so far.
I agree completely. I've just been like pattering. Like, I'm just trying to keep verbal communication so that it's not just us sitting here like staring off into the distance.
Surely, yeah. I really appreciate that. I think I'm done with button clicking. I'm not sure. I will keep sort of an eye on one of the Facebook Live. If people's comments pop down below, I might see them.
The microphone is yours.
Alrighty. So what is this? This is our third one?
Is it? Yeah, I think so.
We've been NLPing standing up 3 times. This is our 3rd time. And on our first episode, we talked a bit about the challenges that people have after a training, integrating NLP into their lives.
Yes, yes.
And then in the 2nd episode, we talked a bit about how the heck to describe NLP to people. And I thought it'd be interesting, just because I'm thinking about myself a little. So here we are. We're people who have NLP tools. We're people, you and I.
Live people, as we established.
We did establish that. We are alive. Yeah. So I'm Adrianne Gunn.
I'm Nicholas Rave.
And we are both master practitioners of NLP.
And we both have the coolest names in the world.
We do. Although there's that guy with the name you can't pronounce. Well,
that doesn't sound like a very cool name.
The other guy from Doctor Strange. What was his name?
Who? What? Benedict Cumberbundle. Like Cucumber Bundle. What?
Yeah, Cucumber Snatch. No, the other guy.
What? The other guy? What are you talking about?
The guy with the suit, the thing with the name.
Yeah, no, I'm not even gonna get it. I know who you're talking about. Idris Elba's the other guy. He was 12 years a slave. Damn it! I remember him. He's in Serenity and Chittle, what something? Yeah, no. Why are we talking about this?
Cucumber Snatch. Yes. No, I don't know. We have good names, and so do they.
Yes. Okay.
And
fine.
So do some of you.
Moving on.
Well, it just occurred to me that we needed to tell them. So I'm a master practitioner of NLP, and you are.
I am a trainer of NLP and have been in the world of NLP for over a decade now, doing it professionally. And teaching. I've trained around, I think, over 4,000 people in the tools and techniques of NLP over the course of about 7.5 years.
And hypnosis.
And hypnosis, yes.
Tools. So we have tools in our lives to handle really just about anything. The fun thing about the NLP toolbox is that it's kind of. I was thinking of it as this is potentially going to alienate at least one person. But so in the engineering world, you've probably seen these. You know those schematics that are in the back of every manual? There's like lines and squiggly lines and stuff. I feel like NLP is sometimes it's the schematics. And once you know how to read that, you can figure out what's going on with just about anyone. It's like the schematics for our system.
Everybody's got to have their own metaphors. This is a lesson for all you NLP geeks listening in. create your own metaphors for what NLP is to you, because I have found that one of the consistencies among people who are really good at this stuff is that they have about a dozen different ways in their head that they think of what NLP is and how it works.
Yeah. So when we have tools that unfortunately can solve just about anything.
Unfortunately.
It is. It gets really ridiculous. I was at a networking event once, and I was telling somebody the kinds of things I can help people with, and the promises were so big. He's like, nah, that's not a thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Possible. Corley says, NLP is a magical drill that puts holes in your baggage.
I like it.
Nice. Okay, so I'm really finally going to get to the thought and the question.
Okay.
So we have these tools, and they can help absolutely anyone with absolutely anything. Except sometimes when it comes to our own lives, there are times when we can't exactly help ourselves, or we're challenged to figure out, like, okay, I have these tools. How do I use them on me? You run into people who have challenges figuring out, okay, especially because they're supposed to know what the heck to do.
Right. Well, I would say that's one of the big ones, is thinking that you're going to learn NLP and that all of a sudden all your problems are gone is like saying, I bought a really amazing toolbox, and now all of the screws in my all of the holes that need to be drilled in my house are going to drill themselves. All of I bought a tool set to fix the leaky pipes under the sink. And so I bought the tool set and I put it in the closet, but the leaky pipes aren't fixed yet. You actually have to use them, and you have lived a life up to this point full of trauma, full of wounds, full of lessons. And you don't have to call it trauma if you don't want, but things you've learned that are serving you, and a whole bunch of other ones that are not. You have a belief system already. You have a model of the world that is exactly the world that you currently live in. If you want to live in a different one, you got to change that model of the world. NLP is great for that, but you actually have to use it. And one of the dilemmas that people have is that they think that they have to be perfect. There is this cult, this myth that is perpetuated in the world of personal development by, I think, people who sell things in the world of personal development that look, sound, and feel like this. I'm awesome. Look at my life. I'm perfect. Look at my washboard abs. Look at my amazing wife. Look at my amazing life. Look at my,
I smell amazing now.
Yeah. I'm just here in my garage with my Lamborghini fucking okay. So there's this idea that if I'm perfect, the only way people are going to listen to me is if I'm perfect.
Right.
That's a lie. That's a lie, and it's a lie that will keep people from being able to get results because they won't even acknowledge that they have stuff that they need to work on. So, I mean, there's a lot of things I can say about the difference between being able to get results with other people and getting results with yourself. But I will say there's a simple solution.
Okay.
The simple solution is get a goddamn coach. I had a conversation with a very prominent NLP teacher once, who I will not name, who I was talking to about the idea that if you're going to tell people that they need to hire you as a coach, you should have a coach. And this NLP teacher looked at me and with dead serious, with a straight face said, well, I mean, come on, who could coach me? What? Wait, what kind of arrogant fucking a 3-year-old can coach you? A goddamn lamppost can coach you, because the point is not about their skill. If you think that you need to have someone who's smarter than you in order to have them help you, you're a terrible client.
Yes, control freak. We did mention, I don't know if it was a week ago or the first week, that a lot of people drawn into this clever modality are a little control freakish.
Oh yeah. Yeah, NLP people, so many of them come in. So many people are drawn to NLP because they want to control their environment. And control is an illusion, and it's one that you will eventually confront if you go down the rabbit hole of NLP long enough.
Sorry, Coralie says, "Oh my God, you've been watching me." Look into my eyes, Coralie. We know what you are thinking. You are not thinking of a blue cow. Sorry. Okay, sorry. that needed to happen, obviously. Okay, yeah. So we have these tools, and sometimes we're not able to see our own blind spots and
right. Yeah, hire a coach. That's why.
Absolutely. So what about this whole control freak / manipulation scenario we were talking a little bit about?
Well, I've been saying this for quite some time. There's a word that comes up whenever someone starts, at some point after someone starts studying NLP, and particularly hypnosis. It may come up the moment that someone hears that you learned about this thing, or you're reading a book about it, and they go to Wikipedia and they read the page and they're like, well, blah, 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 blah. The word I call the M word is manipulation. And this is a thing that I think everyone who studies NLP and hypnosis needs to learn to address what's going on about this word.
Yeah.
Because people are afraid that the tools and techniques that you're learning are manipulative. Are you NLPing me? Are you trying to manipulate me?
Somebody called it wiggly fingers. Brainwash, Kimberly says.
So let me address the M word first. Let me address manipulation. And then I'll maybe go into a couple of other things on this topic. So here's the simple thing. The word manipulation in the dictionary technically means to influence. That's it. Like when you turn on a light switch or you turn off a light switch, you are manipulating the light switch. That's all that it means, is to influence something. But we all know that colloquially, that's not what the word means. It means something more than that. So my favorite definition of the word manipulation is influence with a selfish intent. This is the definition that I've found to be the most widely accepted by people.
And what's awesome about that is that not only have you shifted manipulate, you also need to talk about selfish.
Sure.
Because it's got teensy amounts of baggage on it too, but I feel where you're going. So manipulating with selfish intent.
So the best definition is manipulation is influence with a selfish intent.
Okay.
Because influence is neutral, right? Like, have you ever heard someone say, I want to be a good influence on that person, or I want my children to be surrounded by good influences? Well, yeah. That means influence is not good or bad. Manipulation, though, is a word that almost always has a connotation to it of negativity. So here's how I feel when it comes to NLP and hypnosis. Are the tools of NLP manipulative? No. People can be manipulative, but the tools and techniques of NLP and hypnosis are influential. How you use them makes all the difference. And I'll take it a step further than that too, because I will even go so far as to say that unless I know a lot of people who avoid learning about hypnosis and NLP because they don't want to manipulate people. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, unless you master the skills of influence, how do you know that you're not manipulating people? Maybe you are and you don't even know it. Have you ever had someone in your life, like a mother-in-law or your mother or somebody, or your father or father-in-law, anybody who uses their emotions to manipulate you? Why do they do that? I'll make it very simple. Because it works. And probably because they don't know a better way to do it. So what if you could influence? See, the truth about influence is that everything you do, say, or don't do or say has an influence. So you are constantly influencing everything and everyone around you, whether you know it or not. I propose that you cannot be a good influence unless you know how to influence. So that's my reframe on the whole manipulation thing.
Right. It's pretty groovy. Oh, we've got applause here from the chat area.
Oh, cool.
Good stuff.
The tools and techniques of NLP are not inherently manipulative. Can they be used for manipulation? Absolutely. They are all the time. Just watch Donald Trump.
Well, and certainly a hammer could be used to build a house or break it down. Yeah.
That's right. Right.
So
the tools themselves are not good or bad. They are tools. How you use them, and literally the intent with which you use them. And I'll even say, it's not just the intent. The intent is important, but intent and results are both important. You can't say one or the other. Because if I have an intention of hammering in a nail, but when I go to hammer in the nail and I go like this, the hammer goes flying out from my hand and hits someone in the face, the best intentions. Right?
Yeah. There are different results than your intentions.
Yes, exactly. So they're both important, and you need to examine both. But that's not a reason not to learn the tools. That's a reason to learn the tools.
Absolutely. So I want to transition here. We have a guest with us, and I'm not sure what tools to use to transition. Like, give her a time to pop in. Do you know those buttons, Nicholas?
Yeah. So we're gonna go 3 people here. Three video, right?
Yeah.
So Kimberly, are you ready? I'm going to promote you to a panelist. You're getting a promotion right now. I'm going to promote you to a panelist, and that means your video is going to pop up, and that way we can communicate with you. And Adrianne's going to ask you some questions. I might ask you some questions. Most importantly, I want to see if you have questions, and I can help and see how I can help.
While he's setting that up,
I'm going to click the button, promote to panelist, and we're going to see what happens. Click. Hopefully she's ready.
There's a rumor no one needs to be wearing pants, so she'll be as ready as. Oh, there's a beautiful picture.
I see a picture.
Oh.
I see a person.
I see your face down there. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to see you here.
Me too.
So,
thank you.
For the others, Kimberly and I met at a networking event in Portland. And she's one of the people that I've met that has more energy than I do, which is fascinating and quite delightful. And I peeked on Facebook World, where we're connected. You've recently started implementing NLP into your business. So I just wanted to invite you here to talk about that and how that's going. Would you take a moment, Kimberly, to introduce yourself and what you do?
We're getting a tour.
A happy space. Oh, guitar. Looks like a Strat, maybe.
Can you? Am I stuck?
I don't know.
We can see and hear you.
Yeah.
Is your connection okay?
Okay. Well, I've been having internet connection problems.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, probably not. Can you see me?
We can see and hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. I'm going to keep going then. Yeah, I just had to come and run over and sit by the router because that's been my technological life recently. So.
Right. That's where the magic is, near the router.
Right near the router and all the electronics, guitars and whatnot.
Kimberly, tell me a little bit about you and your business.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm a nutritionist here I'm in Happy Valley.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and we did meet at Moxie, Adrianne and I. And yeah, the other day, so I guess a lot of people would ask why a nutritionist is interested in NLP. Why?
Yeah, why?
Why? What? Who does that?
At least two people would ask.
At least I asked, so I mean, somebody has to. Well, it's because after years of working with people who come to me for weight loss primarily, what I found was, well, I'm about health. So I want to convince people that it's about health, not about weight loss, which is very, very difficult to do. Not only that, but I'm really good at weight loss. So I get really good results for my clients. But what I find is that the mindset and the value system and their self-limiting beliefs would get in the way. And then that's why they continue to fail. That's why these programs, I won't name names, Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig Nutrisystem, they don't really work for people. They go on and off and on and off because they don't work on their minds. Yeah. So I found a program called Clinical Weight Loss Coach. And inside of it, a lot of it was very clinical for nutrition, but inside of it were quite a bit of modules of NLP.
Really?
Techniques. Yeah. So I was really excited about that because I thought, oh, this is what I need. This is what I need to help my clients out the most, is to be able to change the mindset, because I've got the health, the nutrition on lock. Yeah. So now what can I do? Right. So yeah, so I went to school and got certified for that. And I've done a couple sessions. The first one I did was, I cried. We both had a breakthrough. It was pretty much amazing. So how do you do this?
Welcome to my world.
Right. How do you do this and be like a highly sensitive person and not cry with every single breakthrough that your clients have?
Oh, I do. Well, I do.
Yeah. It was amazing. Yeah, it was really amazing. And then that's what really, I was like, okay, I found this shit. Like, this is my jam now. It's my jam. Okay? So then I'm hyper focused on everything NLP, and I'm super obsessed, right? And I go to a women's conference, and a lady that I know is a stylist, image consultant, and she talked about how she was a practitioner of NLP, and I was like, what? How does that even work? So I came home and I posted on Facebook, like, what? Okay, all my NLP peepers, shout out. I want to know. And I was shocked at the amount of people and all the different types of businesses that people use NLP in. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got here. And then I asked the question, what do you call your sessions? Right. And how do I explain NLP to my client? They're coming to me for weight loss and health. And now I'm going to be like, I'm going to put you in this hypnosis state and make you think about 10 years from now and 10 years past. And, what do you even call a session? So that's how I got here. Adrianne's like, jump on the webinar. Let's talk about it.
Oh my God, this sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I peeked at some of the answers, and my first response in my head, I don't know if I specifically told you, like, here's how I describe it. I was like, oh, I know the answer. How do you describe NLP? Don't.
Yeah,
you don't.
Well, isn't that sort of overwhelmingly what the response was?
It was.
Yeah. You had a bunch of master practitioners, and they don't call their sessions NLP.
The best way that I tell people to talk about NLP is not to, because no one cares.
Right.
Unless you're an NLP geek like us, no one cares about what it is or really even how it works.
Right. Yeah.
They only care about the result. So when it comes to what are you going to call it, that is a question that is mostly about your clients. It's about who are these people and what is gonna speak to their deepest need, what's going to speak to their deepest frustration and wound and their hopes and desires. your session, the name of the session is going to be much better if you focus the name of it on something that's going to hit them that way. Don't even worry about whether or not it says anything, even in the description of it, about how you get them there. And then how do you describe it to them? Because I get that is a thing you have to do at some point, especially once they're in the door. Although I would recommend anything you can do to avoid talking about it until they've signed up. Like, talk about the results. Talk about, I use a variety of different skills, tools, and techniques because my goal is to get you the results. And I use different things with every single person. There are some things I do almost every time, but there's other things I only do occasionally. And I'm trained in so many different modalities. There's no way I could possibly explain what I'm going to do to you exactly, or with you exactly.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do to you.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been using a fun metaphor. Similar, like the idea is like, so I would go into networking events. I'd describe myself as a breakthrough specialist, and they're like, what the heck does that mean? Are you a life coach? And I was like, I'm actually a little bit more like a life plumber, in the sense that when your toilet is clogged and shit's overflowing, you don't really care what tools your plumber has in the van.
Exactly.
There's a bunch of tools in the van. You just want your
right.
You want your stuff flowing again.
Fix the leak.
Yes. Some people do. It's like, how are you going to fix it? They do care about the how, but most people just, when their life is overflowing, just want the clogs gone.
So as far as how to explain it and what to explain to the people once they're signed up, or the people who are like demanding that you explain it, what I would say is ask the question, what's the minimum that they need to know in order for this to work? Mm-hmm. Because it's not a class on NLP that you're teaching them. It's right. Like I look for ways to explain things as quickly and simply as possible. Like, I'll say, what I'm going to do with you is technically what I'm about to do is hypnosis. But you know what? Hypnosis is a really complicated word. All we're going to do is just imagine things. I'm just going to help you to make pictures in your mind. And those pictures can help your body to make changes, and to help your mind to go, oh, I know what you want me to do. I got it. We're going to speak in the language of your mind, and your mind speaks in pictures, sounds, feelings. And so we're going to do that. And all you're going to need to do is just close your eyes and listen, and just follow along with the process. That's a minute, 30 seconds. And hopefully for most people, that's all they need. And they're like, oh, okay. Hypnosis is not what most people think it is. It's just visualization. Fine. And then what you do doesn't change, but how you explain it makes a big difference for people. And it's like you open up, too many people try to get into explaining it, and it's almost like you're giving them ammunition to come back at you for why it didn't work later. You're giving them reasons that they can then use to argue with you about whether or not it's going to work. And they'll be like, well, I can't be hypnotized. That's why it didn't work with me. Then we're not doing hypnosis. I know you can't be hypnotized. That's why I'm not going to hypnotize you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So have you figured out how you're explaining it now?
No, and I think now that I've listened to Nicholas a bit, it's my own. Can somebody NLP me, please? Because it's my own self. Like, I'm the one going, how will I explain it? Because I'm used to a certain modality, right? Like, That's the one I've been using, and now all of a sudden I've got this new thing, and I feel like I've got to explain that to people. Like, well, I used to do it this way, which might be true for clients who've worked with me before who haven't gotten that experience. But for new clients, you're right. They're not going to know. It's just a modality I use.
But isn't there sort of this desire to express to people how much more of a badass you are now? It's like 2 weeks ago, 1 month ago, I did this and got amazing results. But now I can get amazing
results.
Right?
Adrianne, you make a good point. That's a different conversation. Like, bragging about how much of a badass you are is fine. Do that. But the intent behind that conversation is very different than this person has signed up. They're ready. They want to lose weight. What's the minimum that I need to tell them in order for them to close their eyes and go along with the process?
Right,
and
right.
Is it going to get results? I always think, like, too many people, myself included, over-explain the stuff to begin with, and you sort of leave yourself nothing for the instances when it doesn't work the first time. So, like, if you can just go, hey, let's try something. Will you try something with me? Close your eyes. And then you just walk them through a process, no explanation at all. And then they go, what was that? But then if they have an experience, they go through the process, they come back and they're like, well, that didn't, like a week later or whatever, they go, it didn't really change anything. Now you can go, well, let's figure out why. That's the point when you may need to start explaining some things. You may need to go, well, what impression did they have of what I was doing? What was actually happening in their head while I was talking to them? And in that case, you might need to explain, here's what I want you to be doing. Here's how what I'm doing works. But I encourage you to experiment with trying the techniques without explaining them as minimally as possible, if for no other reason than to convince yourself that they work without explanation. Because a lot of people feel like deep down, they're like, these things really only work because I'm tricking them into them working. A lot of people have that feeling inside. Like, I know the truth, but everybody else doesn't know yet, so I'll just trick them into making it work. The best way to cure yourself of that is just do the techniques without explanation and treat it like a scientific experiment. I tried it. Did it work? Yes or no? What can I do to change the process? And then, did it work now? Yes or no? Does that make sense too?
It does, absolutely.
Hey,
Perfect
Kimberly.
sense. Yeah.
Before we let you go, I've got a couple more questions if you're willing.
I'm willing.
I'm very curious. So you've recently learned these. You're super excited about them. I'm curious how your life has shifted. And whether things like your world seems a bit different, like how have these tools changed you and your life in particular? Not necessarily just your business, but
right. Well, I think it's made me more aware of language. It's definitely made me more aware of language. So paying attention to people and what they're saying and what the cues mean and what body language means.
Right.
And, just trying to anticipate what they might be thinking by watching them, which I never did before. And that's just not just in business, because I also do, I do phone appointments. So sometimes I'm not visually seeing the person. But in my real life, especially out in networking, I noticed that I've and the other thing is I there was a speaker at a conference that I went to, and she taught like how buying sales, buyers. Why can't I think of the word? Like things that you should be looking for, words where somebody's going to be your buyer. Why can I not
buying
think of
signals and buying?
Thank you very much for that. Buying signals, and I started to realize when she was talking about that, how that it was NLP. It was like listening. It was language and listening for it. And I became much more aware of that. And in speaking with clients or talking to people in enrollment conversations, that is where it's really come into play. I was like, well, wow. And not me like manipulating, but me being able to listen to them in a different way.
I heard someone say once, a sales guru, they said, if you really believe in what you have to offer and its value to transform another person's life. He gave this analogy. He said, if you ran into somebody who had a disease and you had the cure and they were going to die in a week, do you have a responsibility to give them access to it? And everybody says yes. And he says, okay, next question. Do you feel that you have a responsibility to do everything in your power to convince them to take it. And he said, well, why does that not apply to your services?
Mm-hmm.
That if you really truly see what you have as something that can transform another person's life, you can imagine a responsibility to use every single tool of influence, power, manipulation, because manipulation, as we said before, is influence with a selfish intent. But if your intent is not selfish, and this is a sticky thing. I get it. It's a paradoxical situation, because on the one hand, I think this is true, and on the other hand, how do I know what's right for another person?
Right. Yeah.
So it is a sticky, paradoxical thing. The way I got around that, and this is not necessarily directed to you, Kimberly, it's more directed to any NLP type people listening about this. There's a book that I read, it's actually on my shelf here, really, really fantastic book called Provocative Hypnosis. One of the best books I've read on NLP and hypnosis. And the author, he drew a very hard line in the sand. And I definitely don't think this is as universal as he thinks it is, but it was applicable to me. And what he said is that if you don't offer 100% guarantee for your results, he says you don't believe in your ability to actually help people get those results. And I think that there are different business models. Different people have different business models, and sometimes a guarantee doesn't work for everybody, and I get that. And for me personally, the way that I allow myself to, like, the thing that lets me take the animal off the leash, if you will, from an influence and persuasion perspective, is when I know that if it doesn't work, I'll just give them their money back. It allows me the opportunity to go crazy, to be like, I can try and do anything to convince this person, because I'm convincing them to give it a try. I'm convincing them to give me the chance to experiment. And if we can figure it out, great, and then it works. And if we can't, well, fine, I'll give you your money back. And like I say, I know this doesn't work for everybody listening. Not everyone listening has a business model where this is possible. And there's a mindset in there that I think there's a valuable lesson about. If you've really got something and you really believe in it, where do you draw the line? How do you determine how influential you should allow yourself to be? It's a sticky concept, but it's worth wrestling with, I think, for most people. Adrianne, thoughts on that one?
I had it, my mind went very clear for a second.
By clear, you mean blank.
It was super peaceful in there. Suddenly the monkeys stopped clanking. I'm actually curious whether, Kimberly, whether you came with some questions or you have some questions for either one of us.
I think you've already answered them. I think it was, what do I call my session that I don't really need to have? What I need to do is take that one out of my brain. That was really the question, which is to get to know people in NLP and, how you get started in it and how you explain it to people, but you don't.
Yes, don't. Just no. One of the things I was thinking, just from a marketing perspective, is, and it's very useful from describing NLP and the specific techniques you're utilizing in your session, is describe them by the results that you get.
Yeah.
Or the results that your clients get after the process. That's what you call it. My toilet is no longer clogged session.
Yeah.
If you were a life plumber, say.
Hey, that works for me. I'm a nutritionist. Your toilet is no longer clogged.
Oh, man. You made it funny.
Stop.
Now I'm going to use that. Now when you see it on Facebook, I'm going to be like, hey, who wants one of my sessions?
I'm imagining an advertisement that says, stop punishing your toilet.
There you go. That's a good one.
Oh, it's unclogged and so are you. I Unclog your mind.
I'll throw out this one for you, Kimberly. I used to do, when I first started, after I got my certifications, I worked at a hypnosis clinic for a little bit over a year. And about 70% of my clients there were weight loss. And I really like honed my skills in this work in weight loss. And the thing that I used to tell people is there are a lot of diets out there that work, but just not a lot of people that work them. And 90% of the results or more of the results that people get are not about what foods to eat and what foods not to eat. As a matter of fact, most people who struggle with weight as an issue, they already know what they should be eating and what they shouldn't. For the most part, most of them could practically teach classes on what is healthy and what's not. Occasionally you run into people who think McDonald's salad is an actual healthy food, and you got to educate those people, I agree. But for the most part, people who really struggle with weight, they know the things, and even go a level deeper, their unconscious knows what foods they should be eating and what foods they shouldn't. And their body knows what foods they should, what ones are healthy and what are not. But that's not where the problem lies. And that's why diet, exercise, fitness, health is a multi-billion, $100 billion industry, because very few people are selling solutions that work.
Right.
But everybody wants it to work. So yeah, I often talked about that idea that I don't work as much on the diet, I work on the mind side of things. So I think you're adding exactly the right tools to the toolbox. You already have the nutrition side of it down, and that being like second nature to you, and now really grasping where the problem lies for most people is whether or not they're actually going to have the capacity to stick with it. And if you can help support them in there, help them lose emotional weight around food, work on the relationship that they have with food and with dieting and with their body and with all of these things that are the real reasons why people don't lose weight. I think you're gonna change a lot of people's lives. So good for you.
Thank you.
I do have another question.
Sure.
I do have another question for you, Kimberly.
Sure.
So you sort of massed post, you reached out to people like, who are the people that I know that know NLP?
Yeah.
And what was that?
Gotta love Facebook.
A week or two ago, yeah?
Yeah, about a week ago. Yeah.
So have you been connecting with some of those people in different and new ways? How is reaching out to find your community? How has that been for you?
No, actually this community. I was surprised by the people that, like I said, I use it, and what types of businesses they were in, but I know them all pretty well. But I should be saying like, hey, tell me how you use it. I don't know if everybody who was on there actually use it in their business, but there was like a real estate agent, and like breaking up again. Yeah.
Slightly,
there
just a little.
There was a real estate agent, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm trying to think who else. Stylist, I don't know. No, I haven't reached out to any of those people. Honestly, I've been incredibly busy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us and taking this time.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I appreciate being here. Thanks for asking.
This is a trial run for us for a new model of what we're thinking about doing with this. And it relates to our big announcement that we're going to do near the end when we're wrapping up. So thank you for guinea pigging this with us. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. There are buttons to do.
Yeah, I gotta hit it.
Just
you do the buttons.
Okay. Change role to viewer. Okay, you're gonna disappear for a second, but then you should pop back in the right place. Bye-bye.
Okay. Awesome.
Hey, that was fun.
That was fun.
I like it, Adrianne. I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I like that I just sort of did it and told you about it later.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, by the way, Kimberly's going to be...
Hey, we have a guest tonight. Oh, really? Okay.
See, but she's amazing people.
Yeah, it was great.
The fun thing is when you get connected with NLP people, they're generally pretty groovy.
Hey, guess what? Coralie asked several questions.
Boom.
If you don't have anything like top of mind,
Do it.
oh wait, she said there's one about depression up at the top. Can you read it? Can you find it?
Scrolly scroll, ba-doo-be-doo-doo. Okay. Coralie asks. Right? Because
You just, it makes me so happy. I've always wanted a radio show.
we have a question from the audience. Coralie asks, what is depression in NLP terms?
Ooh.
Great question, Coralie.
Well, here's my favorite way to describe it. I used to do this in front of groups of people. And what I would do is I would say, okay, if I told you that behind this curtain, and there usually was a curtain, if I told you that behind this curtain is a person who is diagnosed clinically depressed, and they are feeling their depression right now, and I asked you to describe that person, would you say that they would more likely be breathing full and deep or short and shallow? And invariably, I've done this with thousands of people, invariably, everybody says short and shallow. And then I say, okay, would their torso be more likely with their shoulders back and their chest out and their head up like this? Or would their chest be concave like this, where their shoulders are coming forward like this? And everybody says the second one. Would they be looking up or down more likely? Most everybody says down. And so then I say, do you know what that means? That means that every single one of you knows how to do depression. I choose my words very carefully. Let me say it again. Every single one of you knows how to do depression. Now, this is not at all to suggest that depression does not have a physiological, biochemical, neurochemical basis. On the contrary, I'm actually saying that's all that it is. In the same way that they've done studies that will take a group of people who are depressive and give them a like the cure for depression, take a pencil and put it in your mouth like this, and don't let your teeth, don't let your lips touch it. And if you do this, if you do that long enough, at some point your body starts to say, are we smiling? Like, are we happy about something? Hey, everybody, apparently we're happy. Send up some of the happiness chemicals. And then people start to feel happy. But it doesn't last. That doesn't last. That behavior doesn't last. Because as soon as you take the pencil out, it goes away. So what is depression? Depression is a set of behaviors, both physiological behaviors and mental emotional behaviors, patterns of moving and using our body, patterns of thinking. And this always begs the question, because people start asking with this NLP hypnosis body stuff, does this mean that I'm against medication, antidepressants? Absolutely not. I think that medication is a life-saving intervention for many, many people. Mm-hmm. I see medication like crutches, like getting a cast. You would never say to someone who broke their leg, get over it. Like, you just need to buck up and cheer up. You'll be fine. Like, stop whining about it. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. This idea that depression is somehow caused by someone who's weak or somebody who is overly negative and they just need to be more positive, that is a complete fallacy. Another challenge is that the word depression is just a label that we give to a whole bunch of different things. For me, I tend to look at something like depression, and I tend to look from the bottom up. So I want to look at things like nutrition. I want to look at things like sleep. I want to look at things like chemical imbalances. And I want to look at things like, does the person have adrenal fatigue? Does the person have, and I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV. I don't pretend to be one. I don't pretend to diagnose things. That's why I work with other experts when I'm working with people with real serious issues. Does the person have sleep apnea and they don't know it? Like, if the person's chronically sleep deprived, that person might be expressing all the symptomology of depression when in fact they just haven't had a good night's sleep in 25 fucking years. Well, that'll depress you.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
And it can also be things like posture. Literally, you were 9 years old, 7 years old, and somebody rejected you on the playground. They said something happened, everybody pointed and laughed, and it hurt so much. It hurt your heart. And you did this, because this is what we do when our heart hurts. And then after a few days or a few minutes or a few hours, you feel like you got over it. But you know what happened? You never really opened back up. You never fully stood up straight again because it hurt so much. And nobody gave you the tools and the resources to be able to heal it. So for the longest time, you just were a little bit more like this. Just a little bit. I mean, the difference between this and this, just that is enough. And then over time, it accumulates. It gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And you can't feel anything other than what your body is doing. So I tend to look at things on the ground level first. The ground level, meaning on the physical reality first. And then you can start looking at behavior patterns and thought patterns and emotional trauma and things like that. I think that people who tend to go for me personally, when I used to go for the mind first, I used to go for the emotional components, the past traumas and histories and things like that. It's very easy to slip into a mind over matter kind of attitude. And that's why I think it's so important. Like, if somebody is so depressed that they can't even get out of bed to come and like see you and do a hypnosis session, if they're so depressed that they can't even face their life, you need to get them, they need to get something to get them going again. And that's why I am a firm believer in pharmacology and using medication when it is necessary. And it's definitely necessary sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a weird stigma against it that I think is really damaging in the self-help community, that there's this underlying attitude that like you're better off if you don't rely on medication. That's stupid. Food is drugs. There's no difference between food and drugs and supplements. They're all just things you put in your body that affect your body. Some of them affect it in more dramatic ways than others.
I think it's a good point, and Coralie is reflecting this as well when you say that the depression is a label. It's this generalization of a whole bunch of different things that could be going on, which is, I prefer the kinds of doctors that look more holistically at the entire life instead of saying, oh, you're depressed, here's a pill. Exactly. Sometimes you can get that whole barely 5 minutes with the doctor solution for things going on where they do have the tools and the skills to look at something deeper going on, and they tend not to. They'll just throw the pill at you. Yeah, my doctor gets better
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going.
My doctor's an integrative medicine specialist. And one of the things that I love about it is that when you schedule a session, you get like 45 minutes to like sit and really talk about your whole life and everything that that is going on. And she's totally willing to go in that direction when necessary, but she's going to look at the whole thing. And I think it's a very grounded, very realistic way to look at things.
Yeah. I used to describe myself as somebody who suffered from depression, and I joke this way about my own process where I say, you know, some of us are probably not depressed. We're just, we eat crap food, haven't moved our bodies in a while, and have shitty thoughts. Maybe some allergies, hormonal shifts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's when I'm being sassy. Because what I discovered is as I changed my nutrition, changed my behavioral patterns, got out in the world, like it's not a thing that I experience frequently anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are definitely times when I did take pills and it kind of made other things worse. But,
yeah. But
it does usually jumpstart people.
Yes, and that's why I use the idea of like it's crutches or it's like a cast. I want generally to see somebody going, this is a temporary thing. This is what's going to help me get back on my feet. But at the same time, I think it's so important to be compassionate and to get in the model of the world of people who really suffer, and the depths of sadness that are so insanely debilitating and overwhelming. And it's not even just sadness. I mean, anxiety can do the same thing for people. And so, like, for people who are in the helping professions doing this kind of work, if you've never, just because you've never experienced something, you never having experienced something is a reason why you should take people at their word. Somebody says, my life was a living hell, and I took these pills and it helped me get over it. The last thing you want to do is argue with them about that.
Well, that's the presupposition of like getting into the model of the world.
Yeah.
You know, believing that what they say is true for them.
Yes.
It's really important.
So there's another phrase that I really love about depression, since we're on the topic. Depression is the opposite of expression. Depression is the opposite of expression. In that sense, this goes back to the body thing that I'm talking about a wounding that happens, and then we get these traumas stuck in our body. And in a very real sense, we all have PTSD. We all have post-traumatic stress disorder. When was the trauma? When you were born. Sure. And all the time in your childhood. Did you have a perfect childhood? No. No? Question mark? I'm pretty sure the answer is probably going to be no. If you didn't have a perfect childhood, even if you did have a perfect childhood, just living in this world that we live in, this modern society, civilized society, is traumatizing. Driving on the freeway has been shown to be stressful to a level of trauma to your brain, because human beings are not meant to go 70 miles an hour around a bunch of other like deadly metal machines. You get used to it and you get comfortable and you tune it out, but your nervous system gets jacked up even if you're not aware of it. Mm-hmm. There's been studies that show that being in a room with white walls is traumatizing to your nervous system, because your eyes and your brain are meant to process grass and trees. That's what our brains were designed, that's where we're designed to live, not in these rooms with like perfectly flat surfaces. If being in a room with white walls is stressing your nervous system out, what else has been stressing your nervous system out, and have you been letting it out? If you haven't, and most people haven't, And that's not a thing you should know how to do. Little kids want to get that stuff out of their body. That's why they wiggle and move and jump. And then we tell them, sit down, be quiet, don't wiggle, sit still in your chair. And the kids do this, and then all that stuff, they have to learn how to repress it, suppress it, depress their natural impulses and expressive behaviors. Your body knows what to do to get that shit out, but we don't let it. It's not polite. It's not what civilized people do.
And we're not really taught to trust our body and what it wants to do. We've talked about that in the last few weeks when we're talking about like letting the unconscious do what it knows how to do.
Yeah.
And its connection to the body.
Yeah.
So we are here at about an hour in, and I want to check in with you about what else did we tell people we were going to talk about today? Or do I need to check in with them?
Are there other questions? Can you look through the comments and see?
I'll do that.
Anybody comment in the Facebook?
I don't.
I can't tell.
I can't tell.
Okay. Well, if you're watching on Facebook, thanks for tuning in.
We'll find a way to notice that you're there soon. Okay.
Coralie says screaming in the car works wonders. Amen, sister.
This is about releasing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I am reading. Looking for questions. I don't see them yet. They're in the scroll bar. Doopy doopy. Nope. Coralie, did you have another question that I'm not noticing?
Okay. Well, then let me talk a little bit about our big announcement.
Oh, shall I drum roll? Do I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So, How to NLP Standing Up is going to become a podcast, at least temporarily. Our plan right now is to experiment with, I think we said like a month, we're going to do like a month of weekly shows that are going to be basically like this. And the goal is that we're going to show up for about 45 minutes to an hour on Thursdays, but it's going to be in the mornings. It's going to be at 11 a.m. on Thursdays, at least for the time being. So next Thursday at 11 a.m., we're going to have the very first How to NLP Standing Up podcast show. And the goal with it is going to be, we're going to talk about stuff, but ideally what I'd love to be doing is answering questions the whole time. And we did an experiment tonight with Kimberly where we actually brought her on. And what I'd love to start doing is almost like an NLP hypnosis office hour, where if you're willing to be broadcast to the public, I'll do like impromptu free coaching with people during that time. So the goal is going to be that we'll get email questions from people. We'll get questions submitted on Facebook. We'll address those questions. Adrianne and I will probably talk about whatever the hell is on our minds about NLP and hypnosis. But then you show up to the show or submit your questions ahead of time. And if you're there live, we'll go back and forth with you. And if you want, you can even pop on video and we can do some real actual intervention. So we can do kind of what we did with Kimberly, but where we can answer your questions live. But I'm even willing to start to dive in and actually do techniques. So you come with a real problem, and then we do some hypnosis. We'll do some NLP, actually do the work, and get to kind of show the world what this stuff is really capable of. So I've never really seen this done. I'm sure there's probably other people out there who have done it, but I've never seen it. So I'm really curious to see what this is. So How to NLP Standing Up is becoming a weekly podcast show that's going to be Adrianne and I. Sometimes Adrianne might not be able to be there. I might even bring in other guests at times, but that's going to be the plan. And I'm really, really excited about this.
Yeah.
So that's our first announcement.
It's our first big announcement, but then you have this other one, right?
I have another announcement. The other big announcement is that next Thursday, we are doing I was going to say a brand new webinar, but actually it is my most popular webinar that I've ever done, coming back by popular demand. I can't even tell you how many people I've had who have asked me when I was going to do this one again. And a year ago, in December of 2015, over a year ago, I did a webinar called How NLP Can Ruin Your Life. And it was the beginning of me stepping into a new phase of teaching about stuff, teaching about all the things that I've been doing this last few years. And I am bringing the webinar back next Thursday. Next Thursday at 5:30, we're going to be doing How NLP Can Ruin Your Life. And we're going to talk about what I see as the most significant missing components from NLP. I believe that unless you have two very specific components grounded and incorporated into your unconscious, into your body, into your way of life, if you don't have these two components, NLP can absolutely be a path to going crazy. It can be a path to madness. I have seen it destroy people's lives. Now, I'll grant you, there are people who study NLP and they just come in at the surface level. They just kind of skim across the pond. And if that's what you're going to get, if you're just going to get some like rapport and some nice NLP communication techniques and language stuff, good for you. That's great. You're fine. But if you're one of those people who's like, I want to see how far this rabbit hole goes, I am the firm opinion that you need to be prepared to go all the way to the bottom of that rabbit hole. Because if you go 90% of the way, you can actually screw up your life. And I know this might sound like I'm saying the sky is falling. I think that there are some missing components in the way that NLP is taught for some people, not for everybody, but for some people. The way that NLP is taught can exacerbate pre-existing issues if you don't balance it with some other missing components. So next week in How NLP Can Ruin Your Life, we are going to talk about the most significant missing components. And it's actually going to lead into the brand new program that I am going to be promoting to start in March. So we're way ahead of time at this point.
Nice.
And I guess last thing I'll mention for anybody who's on here is that the current program that we are working on promoting and filling right now is that I am doing a coaching program called Living NLP that is exclusively for master practitioners and trainers of NLP who are interested in joining a community of NLP geeks who support and challenge each other to take their skills to the next level. And if you want more information on that, you can go to, is there a website for that?
Yeah.
I don't think there's an easy way to go and find that link. You can look on my Facebook page and you can scroll down until you see the announcement about it.
I think I have a bit.ly. I can put that in the chat box.
Okay.
I can find that.
Yeah, it's all good. Whatevs.
I can write that down.
Yeah, I think Coralie and Karina are the only ones on here right now, and both of them have already heard about it.
Good deal.
So I'm not worried about it.
All right.
Unless there's any other questions, everybody, I think we're good.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, I liked it. I could definitely do this every week.
Right on. And I have my emergency chocolate at the ready if anything ever goes awry. So I think we're pretty covered.
All right. Sounds good.
Lights. Coralie, thank you for being here and engaging. Anybody who's on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. We'll see you. Leave
I really can't tell. I mean, there could be 100 people watching us right now, theoretically.
Not sure. If we'll go back and if you made any comments or questions or that sort of thing, we'll go back.
We'll add them in for next week.
Sweet.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Goodbye.